Hello and welcome to this edition of Our Future, Our Voice NI, leading the conversation for COP26. In this episode, we're continuing with our theme of listening to some of our younger people and their perspectives on what they're doing to help tackle climate change, what they're doing in their local communities, and also what they would like to see from the COP26 conference and what they would like from our policymakers. And to go through this, we have quite an exceptional person with us today. We have Andra Vladu, who is speaking to us. Again, Andra is someone who has been working with the youth group in the Belfast Climate Change Commission. Andra, you're very welcome to Our Future, Our Voice. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
That's okay. Andra, I'm always intrigued by what gets someone your age involved in taking action on the climate emergency. What was it that motivated you to take action?
I think for me, it was sort of a range of things. When I was younger, I'm a young person now, but when I was a child, I used to spend so much time outside. I grew up in the countryside, and I love nature and I loved being outside. And I guess when I heard the term climate change and when I heard about the climate crisis, I sort of started getting interested in that and why are politicians, why are our leaders not doing anything about it? And then I started getting involved in different organizations and sort of campaigning, because I felt, after reading the science, I felt like, why are we dragging this so much? Why is action not being taken? So it was a mixture of love for the environment and just being scared for my future as well.
Okay. And when you got involved and when you got active, because quite often something that we hear a wee bit about, and some of the issues is, how can people get involved? What were the first steps that you took yourself in terms of actually getting involved in different projects on this?
I think the first step is always having the courage to try something new and just really be really be involved in it. I think the first thing I did was join the climate strikes. The first time that I actually got involved in anything was when the first few climate strikes sort of were happening in Belfast. I was there and I was sort of out with my sign. And then I started joining organizations from there. You meet people, and then you join an organization, you are part of a campaign, and from that campaign you go to a different campaign. So it's sort of a network of different people, but it's kind of taking that first step in joining, in being part of it and having the courage to do that. So that's sort of what I did. And well, I'm here now. So
and here you are. Absolutely. You're still very active now, Andra. Obviously, there's so many different issues. You alluded to them there about that comprise the climate emergency, and we've been looking at some of those throughout these themes. Obviously, one of the big ones is about clean air and issues around that. What's your take on those issues, and why should policymakers and the rest of us stand up and take notice about an issue like that?
So clean air it's a human right, and the air quality, especially here in the UK, is very, very poor because we have so many cars on the road, we have so much congestion, and around 7 million people die every year because of air pollution. So it's a really big and increasing stressor in today's society as well, causing so many different issues. And it's just, it's something that our governments can't ignore. Northern Ireland is, especially Belfast, is one of the most congested cities in the UK, and it's not big compared to London, mm-hmm. compared to other cities around the UK. Yet air pollution, air quality is very, very poor. So
Yeah, and just as you're talking there, I mean, you're talking about the congestion again is as we're filming, I can hear behind me is as I record in Belfast City Centre, the build up of traffic that's going on behind me. I mean, for you looking at that, I mean, for you, do you see, is that mainly about, do you think accessible public transport? Do you think it's maybe about, you know, maybe just habitually we're maybe too dependent on cars? Just for someone like you, who's, you know, one day maybe you already are in the process of learning how to drive, or maybe you're thinking about you're thinking about getting a car, or you know, we're talking with Chris Conway about how we can keep people your age on buses for longer and trains. I mean, what would you like to see happening in that, in order to encourage you to nudge you away from dependency on a car towards keeping you on the bus or the train for a bit longer?
I mean, I think it's a mixture of different things. It's a mixture of public transport accessibility and also active transport, being able to having the infrastructure to actually travel safely, whether that's walking or cycling. And I think firstly, in terms of the public transport, I live in Belfast, so I should have enough accessibility to public transport to go, you know, to travel somewhere else, to Bangor or Newtonards or somewhere else, without having to take like 3 different buses and then a train. And because of that, I think a lot, because there isn't enough access for the public, people just tend to use their car. And also because, frankly, for me as a young person, I genuinely cannot afford to travel by bus frequently, because it's very expensive. And not only bus, but even train. If you want to go up to, I don't know, the North Coast with your friends, it's not cheap to go by train. So I think public transport should be free for all young people. How do they expect us to? We're not even earning money ourselves, so how are we expected to pay for public transport? And the other thing is having access to greenways and being able to cycle and walk, and having sort of having just accessible areas where you could cycle. There is a cycle lane where I live, but it's on the road, it's close to traffic. Again, I don't want to be breathing in the fumes that are coming from the car. And I think just generally we do need to put more money into the greenways and really safe cycling lanes for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking just a few days ago to the Infrastructure Minister, Nicola Mallon, about those type of things and about active travel and about how we can get people involved. I mean, just for you though, I mean, in terms of what you're saying, you know, the infrastructure there for you to take up your cycling and to take up, you know, and to stay on buses and trains a bit longer. I mean, is there anything that policymakers could be doing a bit more of that you would like to see to help you in that goal? You know, for someone who wants to take up these things, I mean, is there anything that they could do to incent? I know you mentioned some things there, but is there anything else that they could be doing for to encourage you, and not just you but your friends as well, to keep those behaviors going?
Yeah, no, I think everybody is really keen to get out, to get on the bus, because we're also conscious about climate change, we're conscious about air quality, and people do want to get out. And I think, as I said earlier, having free public transport would encourage people to get out so much. Having safe cycling lanes, putting sort of decreasing, there should be schemes of having, just putting money into more accessible but greenways that are not disrupting wildlife, because I know that there is so much talk right now on kind of lighting up greenways at night, which is not good, because while that would mean that people could travel through greenways at night, that is disrupting wildlife so much, and we can't just solve one problem but then create another one in the process. So I think just having better cycling lanes that are away from the road that people can use, but at the same time near the road. It doesn't have to go through a park. It could go around it, but as long as it's safe for everybody to use. And also closing streets. I think having pedestrianized streets is, especially in the city center, it's something, and in inner city areas as well, it's something that is really, really necessary to decrease congestion from pollution and from cars. And it's also so much nicer. I think people would enjoy it so much more. And there is definitely an appetite for it, because in so many groups we've talked about this, about having pedestrianized streets, and people are really, really up for that. So I think all those things would make such a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, pedestrianisation, particularly during the pandemic we've gone through, we talked about that. I know we've started the process of pedestrianising some streets, but we've still got a long way to go. And I know that's something that City Council is looking at. The one thing that we're always interested when we've got someone like you in front of us, Andra, is again, what they want to see from conferences like COP26, because, you know, I saw, I think it was the Boris Johnson references the other day about, you know, people like you are 100% of the future. I know it's a bit of a cheesy saying to say, but it is true. I mean, for you, apart from, you know, the kind of, you know, things where we just bring in a young person and then you never hear from them again. For you from COP, what for you and your generation do you really want to see coming out of this conference?
I think COP26, I think so many people are saying it, but it's so true. COP26 is our last chance to act on the climate emergency. I mean, we're seeing how much biodiversity is being lost, how far emissions have, you know, greenhouse gas emissions are not really decreasing at the rate they should be, and we're no longer on target to reach 1.5 by 2030. And it's sort of, yeah, it is the last conference that really ambitious targets should be put. So we should decarbonize our economy. We should be working towards reducing emissions, towards restoring nature, because nature is such an important asset in tackling the climate emergency. We should be working towards just reviving our oceans and our sea, because it's so important to for absorbing. So it absorbs so much of our carbon dioxide and greenhouse gas emissions, and all these things can be done so easily. And you always hear politicians and decision makers saying that it is your future, and we'd like to hear from young people. Well, young people are speaking right now, and we are really urging everybody at COP26, all the world leaders and Northern Ireland representatives, to really be pushing for that, because we are going to be in a really, really bad position if we don't. So yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, very well put. Just on something you were saying there, and this is my second last question to you, Andra. Education seems to be so important, kind of what you're saying, and I've heard this a lot from some of our previous contributions about the importance of being taught the impacts of, you know, the climate emergency and instilling that from a young age. What would be your view on that? I mean, would you like to see more environmental education out there? Would you like to see more training and just more awareness put into the community from a younger age on this?
Definitely, yes. I think education is the key to tackling anything. If people know about it, if people really knew the facts if people were aware of the science behind the climate crisis, if politicians were really putting that out there as it is, I think more people than already are would step up. And so I can't stress how important education is. With Ulster Wildlife this last year, yeah, it's been so long. We were working on a Learn More Outdoors campaign to get young people to have more environmental awareness and have environmental education, but also learn more outside the classroom, because that's so much more engaging. And I think part of the problem of the climate emergency is that people have become so disconnected with nature and everything, just the world around them, that it's kind of abusing rather than using and living in harmony with nature. So yeah, everything starts with education. So it would be one of the biggest steps we could take by just bringing that education to the public, and teaching young children and young kids about the climate emergency and nature, and yeah, just everything about it.
Okay, so we've spoken about giving younger people a voice and about putting those views in front of decision makers. So we're going to try and do a little bit of that right now, because this will be in a public forum, and hopefully we'll try and get some of your views in front of some of these decision makers. What would be some asks for you to policymakers in the Northern Ireland Executive, if we could put your views in front of someone like Nicola Mann, the Infrastructure Minister? What would be your ask of people like her in positions of power?
I think it depends on the department. For just generally that they would really think about the decisions that they're making, the policies that they're bringing forward, that they're not actually doing more harm than good. Sorry, that they're not doing more harm than good, and that the policies and everything and all the targets are aligned with the science, that everything we're doing should be to tackle the climate crisis, because the climate crisis isn't only about global warming, climate change. It's about social justice, it's about racial justice, it's about justice for nature. So I think with the 2 climate bills going through Parliament right now, I think our politicians, our decision makers should really be pushing for the most ambitious target. I mean, the environmental minister, Mr. Edwin Poots, has a climate bill that is not in line with the science, that young people clearly are not happy about, and anybody, any organization in Northern Ireland, we're not happy with the targets. So I think a lot of thought should go into the targets that we're putting forward.
Okay, well, Andra, thank you very much for coming and speaking to us and giving your thoughts, and also thank you for all the work that you're doing as well. You're obviously someone who's very passionate. Please keep up the good work and keep up your activism as well in pressing forward the deserving case for change. So thank you very much. If you want to comment on anything that Andra or myself have said in this edition, you can please feel free to comment below. In the meantime, that just leaves us to say goodbye. Thank you for listening to this edition of Our Future, Our Voice NI. Thank you for watching.